Alright guys, you've gotten pretty far, and now we're actually starting macroeconomics, because before the topics we were covering are in micro as well, and just really basic economics. So here we're going to start with something called GDP, which you probably have heard before. It stands for Gross Domestic Product. GDP is the total value of all final goods and services produced in a year within a particular country. GS, goods, services, prod, produced. Okay, so here's what that means. So it's probably some of it is self-explanatory. You probably understand what total value of all goods and services means. But what does this part here mean? Final. Well, that means like this. Apple pie, for example, that's included in the GDP. What's not included in the GDP is the dough used to make that pie, the apples used to make that pie, etc. Because you only count the final good. The final good in this case is the apple pie. But if you just sold the apples at the store to people, then they are the final good, because they're sold directly to people as a good or service. They're not used in the apple they're not used as a resource good for another product. They're not used to make apple pies. They are the final good or service. Okay, so that's gross domestic product. Next, we're going to talk about something called the GNP. By the way, oh, no, let me finish, actually. GDP, it's within a country. That's actually really strict rule there, within a country. That means within the actual borders. So let me try and draw the United States. Oh, wow, this is bad. Okay, that's terrible. So we got Texas here, whatever. Alright, so let me also draw Japan over here. I'm not even going to bother. I'm making a boomerang looking thing. Japan. Okay. GDP. Anything produced within the United States borders is included within the United States GDP. Everything produced within Japan's borders is included in the Japan's GDP. Let's talk about this though. What if we have an American citizen, this blob over here, in Japan making something? That's not counted in GDP. Although he's an American citizen, what he makes isn't within the United States borders, so it's not counted as GDP. Alright. But it is counted in something called the GNP, which is what I'm about to introduce you to. Let's go. Alright. GNP is the gross national product. While domestic means local, which is shown by the only within its borders, national product means the actual total GDP kind of thing for the nation, but it's not confined to its borders. It's the total value of all final goods and services produced by a citizen of that country. That's the kicker. So let's go back here. So now, so this guy here, he's a U.S. citizen. Whatever he makes in Japan is contributed to U.S. GNP, gross national product, because it's made by a U.S. citizen. It's not made in the U.S., so it's not counted as U.S. GDP, but it's made by a U.S. citizen, so it's counted under the United States GNP. Similarly, you could have like a United States firm in Japan that's hiring some workers there. It's going to be counted as U.S. GNP. Since that firm or person is still in Japan, they're still counted in Japanese GDP, whatever they make. and not in US GDP. You just have to realize that GNP is cross-boundary. As long as that person or firm is from a certain country, it'll contribute to that country's GNP, while GDP is confined to production within the borders of a country. Alright, let's go on. There's two types of GDP. There's nominal GDP, and there's real GDP. Nominal GDP measures price and output. Real GDP measures only output. Why? Well, I'll show you. Let's do this. Say we based our readings of the GDP based on the price of milk. Okay, so this is a table for milk. The price of milk and how much milk was made, the output. In 2009, the price of milk was $5 and the output was 50. In 2010, the price was $10 and the output was 40. So let's check that out. To get the GDP for 2009 based on milk, we're going to multiply the price times the output. 5 times 50 is 250. So 2009, the nominal GDP was 250, because nominal is price and output. So 250. In 2010, you multiply the price and the output, 10 times 40, and you're going to get 400. So look at that. That looks impressive, right? Our nominal GDP increased by 150. So it looks like we're doing pretty great, right? We've increased our GDP. However, that doesn't matter. Since nominal GDP measures price, it also measures inflation. This increase in price is due to inflation, which is the basis for all of economics, and I'm going to teach it more in depth in the upcoming videos. I'm not going to stress it right now, but that's the kicker for nominal GDP. It measures inflation. To measure the state of an economy, whether it grew or not, you only want to look at the output. So the output decreased by 10. So in reality, our economy got worse. We made less milk. It was just more expensive, so nominal GDP made it look like our economy got better when it actually got worse. So that's why most economists use the real GDP. Real GDP is something called base years to calculate the GDP. Base years mean you choose the price of that product in a certain year and use that to calculate the GDP for all years. So, the 2009 price of milk was $5. That's our base price. That's what we're going to use to calculate this. So, 2009, 2010. In 2009, we made 50 milks, and in 2010 we made 40 milks. That sounds weird. So it's multiplied by the price, the base price. So our real GDP in 2009, 50 times 5, 250. In 2010, 5 times 40, 200. So now there's a decrease in 50 in our real GDP. Now you see the actual our economy getting worse. Real GDP shows the truth. It shows that our output decreased because the price is held constant. It's $5 in both cases. So we're not counting inflation, change in prices. We're strictly counting the output. Output decreased, therefore our economy got worse off. So that's GDP and GNP. That's what you have to know. Just remember that real GDP is what we should always look forward at, and that it's calculated in base years, and it counts only output, no prices, only output. That's really important. Output. Alright, so I'll see you next video where we'll talk about CPI, PPI, and the GDP deflator.